In the next project, our team is going to introduce the topics of exponential decay and growth, how these processes are applied into certain situations, specifically in the nuclear disaster of Chernobyl. Also, our team is going to touch the topic of nuclear activity and how it's present in Mexico and in the world occur.
An exponential function is a function of x in which the base is a fixed number and the exponent is a variable, so the variable is now the power rather than the base. In the exponential function form, that is j equals a b to the power of x, a represents the y-intercept, b stands for the growth or decay of the function, and x, the exponent of x, makes this function an exponential function. Now, to graph an exponential function, for example, function of x equals 2 to the power of x, the first thing to have in mind is the reference point, which is always 0, 1, except if the function is negative. In that case, it would be 0, -1. But as this function is positive, our reference point is 0, 1. Another thing to have in mind is the asymptote. As an exponential function, this function has an horizontal asymptote, which means the asymptote will be in the y-axis. In this case, the horizontal asymptote is j equals 0. Then you have to determine the domain of the function, which will always be negative infinite to positive infinite because the function will always continue. It won't stop. Therefore, the range could also be negative infinite to positive infinite, but since you have an horizontal asymptote at j equals 0, the range will be 0, positive infinite, because you can never go below your horizontal asymptote.
The early morning hours of April 26, 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine, formerly part of the Soviet Union, exploded, creating what has been described as the worst nuclear disaster the world has ever seen. Located about 81 miles north of the city of Kiev, Ukraine, and about 12 miles south of the border with Belarus, Chernobyl was the dream that the Soviet Union wanted to implement in every part of its country. The dream of a powerful nation fueled by the nuclear power. The 4 reactors of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant were designed and built during the 1970s near to the power plant of Chernobyl and home for many of the families of the Chernobyl power plant workers was the city of Pripyat, which housed almost 50,000 people in 1986. Inside the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, the Soviets used the design of the RBMK 1000 nuclear reactor, a design that now universally recognized as inherently flawed. In most nuclear reactors, water is used as a coolant and to moderate the reactivity of the nuclear core, but knowing the RBMK 1000, which used graphite to moderate the core's reactivity and to keep a continuous nuclear reaction occurring in the core. Pretty more effective than other models, but also more dangerous. 28 highly exposed reactor staff and emergency workers died from radiation and thermal burns within 4 months of the accident. Officials believe the accident also was responsible for 7,000 cases of thyroid cancer among individuals who were under 18 of age at the time of the accident.
After Chernobyl, the rate of thyroid cancer in young people and kids raised exponentially. Scientists contributed this to excessive radiation spread across the world and specifically the Soviet Union because of Chernobyl. Investigations suggest a doubling of the incidence of leukemia among the most highly exposed Chernobyl liquidators. The mortality rate rises enormously among Soviet citizens. The life expectancy decreased considerably. Cataracts and cardiovascular problems become more common among the Soviet Union. Serious impact on mental health and well-being. Designation on the affected population as victims rather than survivors has led to feelings of helplessness and lack of control over their future. This led to an excessive health concern or reckless behavior, such as the overuse of alcohol and tobacco.
Chernobyl has become to this day the memory of how bad things can go if we don't take it seriously. Nuclear power can be a dangerous weapon, but from tragedy comes a better thing. Chernobyl had many things changed so that this incident doesn't happen again. Example, many countries rise their fundamental worldwide change in approach when it comes to security measures. Also, in the decades and the years after the incident, Chernobyl became a major point for the disintegration of the Soviet Union. Note so far, in the 2012, most radioactivity located at the top layer of the soil reduced the abundance of invertebrates in zones nearby Chernobyl. Nowadays, in 2012, mandatory radioactivity testing on ships is part of the UK security measures. Also, the accident raised environmental awareness and changing views worldwide. High levels of security in products coming from Europe for radioactivity. Salmonella reproduced through binary function. Salmonella doubles every 20 minutes in the right conditions. By inserting how many minutes in the equation below, where B will equal the approximated amount of bacteria you can get, you will get the number of Salmonella bacteria after certain amount of time.
An example of exponential growth can be if the current population in Mexico is 119,005,753, and it has a rate of 1.4 per year. To get the population in 2020, we need to apply the population growth formula, which is the estimated population equals current population times 1 plus the rate to the t power. And once we apply the values in the formula, we get that the estimated population in 2020 is 126,366,359.9.
Radioactivity decay is the most common example of exponential decay. The amount of radioactivity material becomes less over time. In an example in where 100 grams of radioactive material decay over time, 100 grams of radioactive material decays to about 12 grams after 20 minutes into a constant decay.
An example of exponential decay is that if the population of London in 2007 was 9,475,680 and is decreasing by a rate of 2.4, and we want to get the population in 2010, we need to apply the population decay formula, which is estimated population equals current population times 1 minus the rate to the t power. And once we apply all the values in the formula, we get that the population is estimated to be 8,809,674.02 in 2010.
This project gave us the opportunity to learn more about exponential functions and exponential graphs. Thanks to this activity, it is easier for us to identify an exponential graph by its characteristics, some of which are: the function of the graph has a fixed number as the base and a variable as the exponent. The graph is continuous, as it never stops. Its domain is a set of all real numbers. The graph is asymptotic to the x-axis. The graph passes through the point 0, 1.
We can say that exponential growth is the growth whose rate becomes ever more rapid in proportion to the growing total number or size. Its function is proportional to the function current value resulting in its growth with time being an exponential function, and the graph illustrates how exponential growth surpasses both linear and cubic growth. The main characteristic is its power. Exponential growth can occur very rapidly. The second characteristic is insidiousness, exponential growth that can sneak up on a person. The other type of exponential is the decay, that is a decrease in a quantity according to the law. Also, we search about the nuclear energy. The implication for both one of it is a large space for build it, a lot of money, and the risk for something get wrong. But this energy can also cause a lot of radioactive wastes, so we say that it's not a clean energy at all. In Mexico, there is one that is located in the coast of Gulf de Mexico, which is supervised by the International and Nation Supervision of Nuclear Plants, so in our opinion, is safe. We agree that there is one in our country with the knowing of what will happen if we do not take the safe precautions. We could prevent the disaster that happened in Chernobyl. The disaster in Chernobyl could be probably prevented if the people that work there will take more safety precautions and better control of the plant. The pollution and radiation of the explosion cannot be stopped because it happened too fast. This disaster caused environmental consequences like release of substantial amounts of radioactivity into the atmosphere, thyroid cancer, and health disorders. These consequences are similar to other nuclear disasters and nuclear weapons that cause the deaths of radiation exposure, thyroid cancer, health disorders, radiation in lakes, seas, forests, etc. We feel bad about these deaths and health disorders that happen in nuclear disasters. And a proposed solution that we have is to have better personnel at the nuclear plants and take all the safety precautions that they should have. For this video we feel good because we do a good job and having fun doing this type of work in teams.